Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on Hypixel Skyblock. So the health of the tier 4 Enderman Slayer boss has just been released on MiniCloon's Twitter page, and as you can see it has 300 million health. Now I already made a guide on Enderman Slayer, but that guide is really inaccurate now because in the time between that guide and now, admins patched sword swapping. And basically the premise of that entire guide was based around sword swapping. Well, today I found methods that can still make the 300 million health Enderman boss pretty easy, and we're going to be diving right into them. So let's get started. So this boss does well over 20,000 damage per second. This is a lot of damage, and with that massive health bar, it will mean that with the current gear in this game, I greatly doubt that any player will be able to solo the boss. And of course, a new, really overpowered, broken mechanic might come out that makes this boss be able to be one-tapped, but if we do not include that, then with the current gear in the game, it is almost without a doubt that even maxed out players will not be able to solo this crazy boss. They might be wondering, Hot Slicer, why can't you just use Remnants of the Eye to keep you alive for the whole boss fight? Well, I really doubt that admins will actually make Remnants of the Eye work against the Enderman Slayer, and this really should not be your strategy for the boss fight. On top of it being extremely annoying to have Remnants of the Eye in your inventory at all times, let alone being super expensive, I think that Remnants of the Eye will be changed so that if you get killed by any mob from the Enderman Slayer, they will not work at all. So do not have your strategy as this boss fight to spam Remnants of the Eye, because I think you're going to be utterly disappointed when the boss fight gets released. Now, with this in mind, you're going to need at least 2 people to do this boss fight. You're going to need one person to tank out the boss, and you're going to need someone that will do all the damage. And with this strategy, you can do this boss fight with absolute ease, and you will be able to get all the levels super easily without even dying a single time. What is this overpowered method? Well, let's check it out. So, a few months ago, you might remember the Goblin Armor Invincibility glitch. This was a really overpowered glitch for floor 7 dungeons, and for dungeons in general. You played mage class or you wore any sort of high intelligence armor set, you swapped to goblin armor, and you activated the Wither Cloak sword, and boom, you were invincible. However, this got patched in the recent major balancing changes, and it's never really seen any use since. Well, what if I told you that actually, goblin armor invincibility is not gone, and it's all based around one reforge. The ridiculous reforge. Now, you probably don't even know what this reforge is. I didn't either. But it is a reforge that in fact drops from floor 1. I don't know, I have never even seen this before. But it's actually really good. And let me explain why. Now, if we read this description, fart when you sneak. Reduces your crit chance 20% for 20 seconds, but grants defense and 50 mana. And requires 20 crit chance to activate. So this ability is rather confusing, but let's just say, let's activate this and see for yourself. Let's go over here to a watcher. And as you can see, when I sneak, I'm gaining 50 mana per sneak. Like, look at this. As long as I keep on sneaking, I cannot die. Very balanced, by the way. Very balanced. Now, why is this important? Well, based on current Slayer mechanics, Slayer bosses aggro the person who spawned them in. Now, if the Enderman Slayer boss follows a similar mechanic, this will mean that the person who spawns the boss, well, they wear their goblin armor and ridiculous goblin helmet, and basically, they just activate Wither Cloak, they go into a corner, and they do this. With this strategy, the damage of the enderman boss will become completely irrelevant. Now, when this person is in the corner, just tanking out the boss, you're going to have someone, preferably when the update releases, in Necron armor, Warden helm, and with an Ender Dragon pet, fully maxed out setup. And they're going to be just going ham on this boss and trying to do as much DPS as possible. But now let's look at the DPS with current stuff in the game and see if it's even viable to even try and use this strategy. So after this update releases, I think the Giant Sword is definitely going to become one of the best weapons in the game, as well as the Valkyrie. The Giant Sword is definitely going to become really good because the strength nerfs are going to make base damage stats matter a lot more than strength stats. Now, with none of these nerfs, currently, in the end, let's see, to an Enderman, let's see how much damage we can. And, as you can see, we're going to do just about 1.9 million damage. And let's just call it 2 million damage for the sake of the math. Now, if you do 2 million damage per hit, and yes, that's going to be very consistent because it's a giant sword, it doesn't have first strike or triple strike, well, that means it'll take you 150 hits, which is absurdly long. Even if you reforge for attack speed on your talismans, and you're using Valkyrie at the same time, we're going to have 1 minute plus kill times for each and every single boss. Even when Slayer first released, I doubt that it took 1 minute and 30 seconds to kill the boss. And this is definitely not an efficient way to grind. This is why I think it's a very, very good idea to have something called a perm party for the Enderman boss. Basically, you guys all get into a party with you or your friends, and everybody should have a maxed out damage setup, and everyone should have a Wither Cloak sword, 3/4 goblin, and a ridiculous goblin helmet. Then, the person who spawns the boss camps in a corner, just like this, and spams shift so they don't die. And all their people, well, they just try their absolute hardest to kill the boss as quickly as possible. Now, I think that the mini bosses will not be much of a challenge because I don't think mini boss will have any special abilities, and you can basically just go into a corner, such as a 2x2 hole like this, and when you're in a 2x2 hole, Enderman can't actually hit you. I doubt the strategy will work for the actual boss because it probably has all its attacks as special abilities, not like regular attacks. But I think the mini bosses will be able to be cheesed very, very easily because of this mechanic, because they're Endermen. So, yet again a recap. One person goes and they summon the boss, they crouch in the corner, another person gets XP for their Slayer boss by killing the existing one. With this method, you guys keep on going in circles, and you guys can probably get pretty good XP. It'll be way slower than anything other Slayers like Sven's or anything else. But I think up to this point, it's definitely going to be a good strategy when the update first releases. Now, when swords like the Atom Split and Vorpal Katana get released, as well as probably a subsequent armor set, I think that it'll be possible to solo the boss. But it's good to always have a head start when things release, and this is a perfect way to get it with the Enderman Slayer update. Hopefully the ridiculous thingy doesn't get obliterated, otherwise this video as well would become useless. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys all later. Consider subscribing. Goodbye.